Wow, a nice number of people already have arrived in the room. So, hi, hello, and welcome everyone again. I would like to introduce you to Naïma Ben Ayed. For people who don't know her, she's an amazing type designer and graphic designer from France, but she's based in London at the moment. And she likes to define her work or her practice as telling stories with letters. And how will that translate that in terms of process? Well, the first step is creating or researching the context of type design processes. And this might be for a specific location that she's working for, or working in a thoughtful collaboration with people, or looking for particular references. So Naïma will discuss in this presentation different ongoing Arabic type design projects, mainly retail fonts, both that she self-initiated or were commissioned, and which are inspired by a specific calligraphic style. And she will introduce us to the commonalities of her different design processes, starting from sketches and letterforms to the script grammar and the design-specific technicalities. So I would like to invite you to hear and listen to Naïma's talk. If you have any questions, just put them in the window with the question mark, and we'll collect them all to ask to Naïma at the end of the talk. So Naïma, the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. Hello and welcome everyone. It's super nice to see so many people and so many friendly names attending. So I want to thank first ATypI for inviting me to talk about my processes. And I want to warn you that this talk is not going to be very technical at all for a tech conference, but please bear with me nonetheless. So to talk about my process, I will first introduce you to my practice. I'm a type and graphic designer. I work with and in between the Arabic and the Latin script, sometimes the tifinagh. I make visual identities, I do lettering, and really the common of all this is making letters. So to talk about my processes, I want to look at 4 different scenarios, and the first one, all of those scenarios are retail projects at different stages, and the first one I want to look at, which is also the most common one, is designing Arabic matching Latin. And I want to talk about Interface, which is a project that I did when I was working at Dalton Mag. It occurred in 2016, I think. So Interface is a grotesque-ish, humanist-ish sans serif designed by Bruno Mag for the Latin part. And I was asked to propose an Arabic companion for it. And the common road for this kind of brief would be simplified nasr or rounded nasr, as Nadine called it yesterday, which is also the common route that I was following at the company. This is because nasr is really the most common style for continuous text, and so if typeface is intended for continuous text reading, this is the most common route. But for this particular project, I wanted to propose to go with the Maghrebi style, and this is the route I was also accepted. Maghrebi and Nasr are very different styles in terms of stylistic parameters. Nasr is part of the sixpence, which are very triangular in their construction, and the broad nib define the contrast that is held as a particular angle. The Maghrebi, on the other hand, is traced more with sort of a pointed pen and is very round in its structure and has a much lower contrast. Maghrebi is also a style that is specific of the region of North Africa, and that has been very little explored in type design. But it seemed to me like an interesting match with the Latin grotesque, and also a good opportunity to create contemporary Maghrebi-inspired typeface. Also, I want to say that the Maghrebi is really a system in itself. It has a lot of different variation for specific uses, specific sizes, and it also, in terms of letter form, vary from a wide range of more rigid to more flowy letter forms. And the more flowy variation that you can see on the left are written with a much faster hand. So this is a bit of the inspirational material, and of course I had to match the feature of the Latin, the look and feel, and also the weight range going from thin to heavy. And my process was really to go back and forth between the grotesque letter form and the script as well, and trying to see how I could bring those two worlds together. And the Maghrebi has a loopy structure, as you can see here. And my approach was to get rid of the loop in the structure, and also open the counters, have bigger counters proportion. And you can see, for example, the dal at the top that has been opened up. Part of the process was also to try pick the most relevant structure with the brief of the project. In Maghrebi, there are a lot of variation of the same letter according to its position, of course, but not only. The letter kaf, for example, here, has different shapes, and you can have more extended kaf or more compact. And so for the purpose of this project, I choosing the right letter form was part of the process, and then simplifying the structure. In Maghrebi, you also have very generous elongation in the stroke ending that I cut straight. And you can see here a little bit of the final output, with also in relation to the Latin. And I want to say that there is a variation of the Maghrebi script that is called Mabsut, and Mabsut in Arabic is simplified. And I like to describe my process for this project as simplifying the simplified, basically. Here you can see the range of weight, and this is not a project that has a lot of grammar implemented. It doesn't have variation in the connections, because I wanted to have a simple, a more simple approach to fit the brief, also because it had to be done in a reduced time frame. And one thing that the design includes is the Maghrebi variation for letter kaf and fa, where the dots are different. Kaf with only one dot and above, and fa with one dot below. And those Maghrebi variation have a Unicode, so they are part of the design. The idea of local letter forms, or Arabic letter form related to a specific place, is something that I like to explore because the history of the Arabic script occurred in many forms and in many places. And I like to look at lettering as testimonies of and way to map letters and location, and really where you can visibly see those heritage. So here is Beirut, where there is Nasr and Ruka and Diwani on the track. Here is in Tehran, where you can see a lot of Nastaliq in the lettering. It's all over the city, and it's of course very strong heritage in Iran. This specific style. In Cairo, you can find a lot of the freehand calligraphy, and in Marrakesh, somehow Maghrebi letters, and really sometimes more than the aesthetic of those lettering. What I like is really this idea of testimonies and the story they tell. This is some letters from Andalusia, where there are super nice example of Maghrebi all over the Alhambra Palace in Granada. And there are also Latin lettering inspired by Arabic letters. And what I really like here, it's really the story they tell about this idea of passage and, influences of culture, exchange, conversations, you name it. And this idea is going to take me to the next scenario that I want to discuss. That scenario occurred when I was invited to take part in typographic matchmaking in the Maghreb, a project curated by Huda Abi Fares from the Hat Foundation. So this project was a collaboration between designers to create a trilingual typeface covering the three scripts of Morocco, so Arabic in the Maghrebi style, Tifina, and Latin. And maybe you're familiar with some of the other typefaces that were drawn during this project, the beautiful Kandus and Tubkal by my colleagues. And I just want to talk very briefly about the Tifina in case you are not familiar with it. The Tifina is the writing system of the indigenous people of North Africa, the Amazigh people. And it's used to write the different Tamazight languages. I think there are seven different ones. And it's a very old writing system. And yet it was officialized in Morocco in 2011 and in Algeria in 2016. And here on the Amazigh flag is the letter Yaz from the Tifina alphabet. And just to highlight here the importance of writing system in the making of identities as people and nations. So with my teammate Redouane Chetouane, we really started to collaborate and reflect and experiment with this idea of matchmaking scripts that are so different from each other and that have such different history. And we decided to create a family with 3 styles, and each of these styles was inspired by the nature of one of the writing system. So one style with the horizontal stress coming from the Arabic, one style with monolinear appearance inspired by the Tifina, and a style with a vertical stress inspired by the Latin. So this is how the family looks more or less at this stage. And the idea was really that for each of these styles, there will be one writing system that feels a bit awkward or a bit of discomfort, but that was really our take on this idea of multi-script and designing scripts that are just so different from each other. And of course, this was possible because this project is more of a research and more of there was room for this kind of experiments, let's say. And so how we processed was to design together this more like skeleton style, define the proportions. The proportion was an important part of the process. We didn't want to compromise too much on the generosity of the Maghrebi proportions. And we wanted to have like a nice match between the three scripts. And the Tifinagh has sort of like blocky letters on the baseline. So it could easily follow perhaps the Latin capital. But then it looks quite big next to the Arabic. So we went for like a smaller height for the Tifinagh. And once we had this style defined, we each took care of one contrast. I was in charge of the horizontal stress, and Redouane in charge of the vertical stress. And this is a bit how it looks at the moment. For the Latin, I was really trying to express a bit of this Maghrebi character, especially with the serifs and the structure of certain letters. And it changed a lot. The Latin at the beginning, it was very like a big slabby design, and then it became a more like a lot rounder and more fun somehow, I think. The three styles share the same tashkil. In Maghrebi, you can see on the manuscript that the tashkil is written with a smaller pen. So we wanted to have this idea. And yes, a bit more on the Latin. I spent some time with the caps lately. And also one big constraint that we added later on, we didn't start like that because we had such different approach in the letterforms, and we had so many problems to solve separately that we kept the compatibility of the outlines for later. But now it's really something that we are trying to do because we would love for this project to be, really experiment with variable fonts, and also because I think it worked well with our concept to really, hybrid a bit the contrast even more. So at the moment, I'm looking a little bit at introducing some OpenType features. As I was saying earlier, in Maghrebi, the kaf can get very extended as a way of justifying the text, basically as a tatwil. And so I'm playing with this very long kaf, and also introducing some discretionary ligatures. And for this, I really go back to the script, which is the best reference for script grammar, and also because I really want to try to incorporate ligatures that are more like specific to the Maghrebi, or at least in their shaping. So here, a little bit of text without the connections, and then here you can see the differences. And I'm sorry because my noon became a ta. This is what happened when you do things last minute. So ligatures, a bit of kerning, and tashkil, of course, is there as well. And from now I will go to a different script, a different story. that occurred in Beirut. It's a project that started during ATypI 2019. So ATypI, Arabic Type Design Beirut, is organized by the fantastic Lara Kaptan and Christian Sarkis. And so I was there in 2019, and I really wanted to work on a Ruka-inspired design. So Ruka is the style from the 19th century from Ottoman Turkey. It was created really as a faster writing style for the government copyist. So it's really a style for efficient writing. So it's a bit compact, a bit modular. There is no elongations and things like that, and it's a style that was widely used in movie posters across the Arab world, and so you can see a lot of examples in lettering for the Ruka. My first idea was to do a stencil Ruka, and so this is usually how I work. I just draw one letter in many variations until I have a bit more of an idea. And in this case, I decided to not do a stencil actually, and maybe add stencil later on. So I went for this one, and so from the moment I have an idea, I go for a word, and then I try to make things a bit more precise as I go. Which is my drawings are never really precise. This is as good as it gets, and really trying to take some decisions. I really wanted to do like a heavy weight. One weight only, quite simple and sharp, and this is how it looks once digitized. And you can see that the nun, so the letter on the very left of the screen, once digitized, I moved away from this more calligraphic nun where the dot is in continuity of the letter form, and my approach was really to try to keep the angle, the feel of the Ruka, but really increase the size of the heads and make much smaller bodies, so a lot quite compact letter, and open the counters and move away from these more calligraphic letters. Here a few more examples, and the top left is the nun again, in case you were not convinced by my sketch. So this is really how the proportions were set. And at the moment I have the basic character set for Arabic. And in terms of text, this is how it looks. So at this stage, there is a lot of stuff to solve to make this work. And I think actually I'm going to reduce drastically the slant of the baseline and to do more almost a flat Ruka because I think it will be more usable, and it will be also maybe simpler to solve. And so this is designed in glyph using cursive attachment, so with entry and exit anchors. And so it's really like a first one of the design phase, I would say. And for the future, I would really like to create a display system around this main style, really as an homage, a nostalgic homage to Arabic movie posters. This is Abu Jaoud, who is a collectioner. he has an amazing archive in Beirut. There is a superb book designed by Studio Safar about his collection. And so we visited the archive when we were there, and I really wanted to somehow pay homage to this collection. So here are some of the examples I was looking at. And on this note, I want to say that for me, type design is a tool of archiving, a tool for archiving letterforms in a way. And even if, like, I'm not doing a proper calligraphic ruka, I think, I like the idea of somehow archiving those letterforms from lettering in a sense that, if they exist in a digitized type design world, maybe they will continue to exist outside of the archives, basically. And on this idea of archiving letterform, I'm gonna go now to my last scenario, which is rather the missing scenario, because I haven't encountered it in my practice, and it's not a scenario that we often see. However, if you work with the Arabic script in that scenario, I'm happy to hear about your experience and process. I would love that. But nonetheless, it's a scenario that we can make happen in other contexts than maybe type design. So I did a workshop a few months ago with the BA to second year BA visual communication students of ESAV Marrakesh. And so it was 8 days online together with a class of 15. And the workshop was about matchmaking lettering, so designing lettering in Arabic and then in Latin. I should say that this workshop was their first time drawing letter digitally. Their first time drawing Arabic letters at this moment in their cursus. They had an introduction on Latin letters, but only by hand, so they were like quite fresh. And so I will talk about the process now, showing the work of one of the students. So the idea was to pick a reference from selected archive of posters, book covers, things like that, and the student had to recreate a lettering based on the style of their model. So this is the work of Maryam. And really try, have a first go at understanding, form and feel and contrast and constructions as well, like how the letters connect, etc. And once this was done, they had to design the Latin version of the lettering, and then they draw those letters in glyph, and finally created a typographic poster with their creation. So I will show a little bit now the ensemble of the production. It was really nice to really, accompany them in this process. For the Arabic part that we did first, there was really trying to understand the letterforms, etc. But for the matchmaking part, I really explained some basics, and I really wanted them to kind of experience this by themselves and come up with their own solutions and their own spontaneous take on matchmaking. And to bounce back a bit with the panel discussion yesterday, like how do you define common parameters to talk about Arabic and Latin at the same time? So weights, contrast, the stroke ending, things like that. And I'll show a little bit more. Yeah, there was also Persian archives, part of the references. And like there was really interesting complexities, like how do you do Latin for ruka, or how do you do Latin for very heavy baseline Arabic, and it was very interesting to accompany them in this. So that's it for me. I hope this talk gave you a good idea of my process and how I try to incorporate storytelling, either in my source of inspiration or like proposing certain pedagogy. And so I want to thank you for listening, and any questions or thoughts you want to share, please do so.
Wow. Thank you, Naïma, for this wonderful presentation. It was very fascinating.
Pleasure.
And so beautiful projects. I was really, really inspired by them. And I guess the attendees as well. It's just amazing.
Great.
If you have any questions, please do ask them in the question mark. And otherwise, we can also later go to the Hangout room to ask questions as well. But indeed, you're receiving so many, appreciation and very nice comments on your work.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, it was fascinating to see. And my question was in the very first beginning of your presentation that you had these 4 different scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
But you, in a sense, answered my question already at the end. The last project is, I was interested to see, I mean, if you do like the matchmaking and you start from an Arabic, that's how you derive like a Latin or other typeface from Arabic. But I mean, the last project with all these beautiful inspiration from the publications and the magazines, it's really amazing to see.
Yeah, it's not a process that I've done myself, because the only time that looked a bit like that was when we did the matchmaking project in Morocco. But then we were also really starting Latin, Arabic, and Tifina at the same time. So it was more about how to approach the script without hierarchy, which was definitely a challenge. But I think with the students, what was great is that they are, when you start from a Latin and you go towards an Arabic, you're not going to get cascading, you're not going to get, there are so many things, so many characteristic parameters that are not in the Latin. So if you start from the Arabic, like it's the doors are much bigger to open, and it's I think it's interesting to start from the archives as well, especially when students are really fresh in designing letters. It's good to start from somewhere, and there is so much there to explore, really.
Yeah, but fascinating to see that they really work well together. I mean, the last project.
I propose the restricted color palette.
Good. We do have some questions already.
Okay.
So that's good. That's good. Laura asked, she would like to know, which have been the motivations to change the shapes of your Latin capitals in Elixir? Because you mentioned that you decided to make it more rounded. Would you perhaps elaborate a bit?
Because before, when it was like this very slabby Latin, I thought it looked quite. So it was good in a sense that he made a very horizontal line with the serif. So the horizontality was there, but then it was almost of a caricature, especially next to the Arabic and the Tifina, where I had to play a lot more with the contrast, because in the Maghrebi there is those head in the alif and the lam, etc. I was really looking at the shape of this little head to try to find a serif that would be more that would be a better company for the Maghrebi.
You perhaps have a slide for some of the attendees that don't know which project we're talking about, just to give. That is great.
Yeah, we can look here.
Thank you.
So, but yeah, I don't have the previous version. But so if you look at the final alif in the Arabic, you have this like head, and I was trying to do something with the Latin serif that was sort of echoing a bit that shape. What is my favorite from all the 4 approaches? I think I have to say that although I love the questions of matchmaking and all of that, the working on the Ruka and working on Arabic by itself was quite refreshing, and also it was the first time I was designing Arabic outside of multi-script scenario. So in that sense, it was great also because I was able to explore things that, as I was saying, would never be part of a brief from a Latin, if you start from a Latin.
There's also a question from Mei Chung, and the question is, the project with the students, Naïma, how many hours during the 8 weeks
it was 8 days. Sorry, 8 days. I said 8 weeks. Yeah, it was 8 days, full day. So I don't know, 6 or 7 hours per day, with I think a day or two, I don't remember, like really introduction and sort of drawing exercises and things like that. And then the final day was really. We also had to do a presentation to the director of the graphic design department. So the last day was really about wrapping up and for them to articulate their process. So yes, I don't know, 7 hours by 8. I don't know, what is that? I can't do math right now, but something like that.
Yeah. 6, good. Then I would like to ask something from the project, like from the example that you showed here as well. It's like you mentioned that each designer took care of one style specifically. Did you first interact with each other? Like, how do you approach it, or did you first individually start with working and then discuss, or how would that work?
So the interesting thing in the pairing of the team was so we were 3 teams. There was 2 teams of 3 people with a clear knowledge and expertise on each designer has expertise on Arabic or Latin or Tifina. And in my team, we were only 2 designers with a mix of expertise, and we had to basically. It took us a very long time to decide how to organize our projects in terms of who does what, and eventually this idea of like we'll draw a skeleton together, take decision together on this, and then be a bit more autonomous on how we do the contrast version. And actually, I should mention that the concept of this project started because Redouane really wanted to do a vertical contrast Arabic, which I couldn't comprehend, but I was like, okay, sure. And I wanted to explore high contrast because Maghrebi is a very low contrast style. And so, we made this little drawing where he was drawing vertical contrasted letters, and I was drawing high contrast, more like traditional contrast letters. And then we made 2 arrows going in both directions with a skeleton in the in the middle. It's like, I think that's what we need to do to make it work. And it was really about learning to work together as we go as well. It's really hard to collaborate with someone you're not used to work with, but it worked that way.
Wow, fascinating. And it's great to see that you're all motivated to making a very nice project together, which really is fascinating to see how it works.
It went really quiet. I mean, we always wanted to continue this project, and then it took a pandemic and very quiet months to look back at it. So it's nice to try to finish it at least.
Nice. Mamoun Sakal mentioned very nice and interesting work, Naïma. Thank you. I see that in your first project that you brought the Maghrebi closer to typical Naskh. What were the reasons for this choice?
Thank you. I think you brought the Maghrebi closer to typical Naskh. Well, so my approach was really to like simplify the Maghrebi and bring it towards this Latin grotesque aesthetic, and in the process I realized that it also makes it, like there is a lot of those contemporary rounded Naskh typefaces going that route in a way, although they are not Maghrebi, but you end up having a lot of commonalities in the shapes because you are in this very round, low contrast vocabulary. So now, because this project was designed quite a while ago now, there are some shapes that I think could be a little bit more Maghrebi. I think my concern was is because I had to follow like the Dalton Mag process, and also the character set, which cover also Farsi, and I was concerned about two Maghrebi design that would maybe like not be as legible in other part of the Arabic script user places, and so I think some letters go a bit more towards that route, and yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Naïma. There's Silver Joseph Bosch asked, could you please name the book again with the posters from the collection?
Yes, I have it right here, so I can show you. It's called Tonight, Cinema in Lebanon.
Okay.
And yeah, you can find it on the internet.
I think I posted the link. I hope it's the right one.
Shall I? Is it okay if I open another window and look for it?
I'll try to. Otherwise, what we'll do in the Hangout space later, we will share the links. I've added in the chat 2 links to addresses from Studio Safar and the other about the projects. I think these are the right ones. Okay, it's the right link. Thank you, Mamoun. I have 2 more questions from May, which are a bit related to each other. Did the students have any previous preparation required before you arrived?
No. So, so what happened is, because usually basically my workshop is usually the course where it's an introduction to Arabic type design. And then when they are in master, they do, they sort of like continue that work and go a bit deeper. And I had a long conversation with Jana Trabulsi, who is the head of the graphic design department. And I was suggesting because it's something that I like to do in workshop as like I think if you're very, very new to type design or digital drawing, starting a typeface is very hard, and also it's online, etc. So I often suggest digital lettering as like a first introduction, also because you can have sort of an output, which is always a bit satisfying with students, because in my experience, they get really bored of refining outlines, and then they can move on to like doing a poster or something. But yeah, I had a conversation with Jana, and she said that they were really interesting in this question of multi-script. So then I suggested that we do more lettering, but then multi-script lettering, and that could be a good. It was a trial. Like I never did that before, and it was demanding in terms of pace, and also I wasn't there in the room with them. But I think it can be refined a bit, maybe in terms of content, but I guess in person also it will be easier.
Nice. I think we've got room for 1 more question, and then I would like to invite everyone to go to the Hangout space to just talk a bit more to Naïma as well, or go to the room, to the talk that's happening afterwards. So the question is also from Mei Chung. How did the designers find each other to even form this kind of team? I guess it's with the project with the high contrast that you showed.
Yeah. So the project was curated by Huda Abifares, and she put the teams together. And so yeah, she did the work really. And then we met the first time in Marrakesh with everybody for a study trip, we can say. And so we met and started to work and look for ideas together at that time.
Wow, great. So Naïma, thank you so much for this impressive work.
For having me.
And thank you also to the attendees and the participants for all the questions. We look forward to seeing each other all together again here at Hangout Space. So let's go there and continue this conversation and asking questions. So once again, thank you so much for sharing these beautiful projects and your amazing work.
Pleasure.
Thank you.